Hi everyone, this is Mark and April from Out of Office Travel Journal. We took an amazing trip to Edinburgh, Scotland. Edinburgh, Scotland was built around the Edinburgh Castle, which was built on top of the hill in the center of the city about 1,000 years ago. Then from the castle, there's the main street running down the middle of the city called the Royal Mile. This Royal Mile is elevated, and then from the elevation of that street, there's tunnels running down the hillside in all directions to the lower parts of the city. The views around the city and the castle are stunning. And then outside the city limits, you'll find beautiful Scottish Highlands and even Loch Ness. One activity we like to tell people about is the tour of the Haunted Vaults in Edinburgh. As the town of Edinburgh grew, a series of bridges were constructed to elevate parts of the town above the flood-prone areas. The South Bridge was built in 1788. Businesses began using the bridge and the vaults under the bridge to do business. Within 30 years, though, the vaults were abandoned by the businesses. So they sealed the vaults after 30 years of using them, and then the vaults were sealed and forgotten about for 100 years until they were discovered. The tour of the Haunted Vaults begins in the Royal Mile, where a cloaked guide begins the stories about the history of the city and the vaults. They put on a really good theatrical performance. You enter the vaults through the secret door you don't even know about in the city. You go down these stairs, down into the vaults, and it's pitch black down there.
And when the guide starts his speech, he's being, like Mark said, he's being very theatrical and he's waving his cloak around. But once we're actually about to go into the vault, he gets a little serious. And he tells the group that it's serious down there. There's no ventilation. There's little oxygen. It's pitch black. And if you start to feel dizzy or sick or strange in any way, to please let him know, because it could happen. And he told us stories about how it had happened before. So that kind of tells you how serious it is down there, and like how old it is, and you know how you really need to pay attention to how you're feeling.
The tour takes guests through many parts of the tunnels where the stories of the ghosts that haunt the tunnels originated. The vaults are known to be some of the most active haunted sites in the world and have been featured on many ghost hunter programs.
When they first discovered these vaults and got them cleaned up, they started doing tours down there just for the historical aspect of it. And as they were doing tours, they started getting reports from people on the tour of seeing certain things down there. And the reports that they were getting were the same thing over and over again. And there's no way these people could have collaborated, because they were on different vacations, different times of the year, people that didn't even know each other. They would all tell the same story of, I think, a cobbler in the corner of one room and seeing a tailor in the corner of another room. And they would go up to the guide and ask them, like, oh, we didn't know you were going to have people dressed up in period clothing. And he said, we don't. One of the stories that our guide told us, we went into one of the rooms. He had the entire group get all the way into the room, and he called it Mr. Boots' room. And if anybody has seen the segments on Ghost Hunters, they actually spent a night down there and had a lot of activity in Mr. Boots' room. So the story that he told us was there was a lady on one of his tours. She felt somebody stroke her cheek on the left and then stroke it on the right. And then she heard a whisper that said, "Get out." And boy, did she listen. She went running past the guide, out of the door, into the darkness of the vaults. So obviously at that point, that tour was over. They got everybody out of there. They had to bring their experts down there. They called paramedics. They had a whole group of people down there with flashlights trying to find her, because it's a maze down there. And like Mark said, it is pitch black. And there's very little ventilation. So eventually they found her. They brought her out. Like I said, they had paramedics there. She was hyperventilating. And they could never really, or not never, but it took them a while to get out of her exactly what had happened because she was so creeped out. And as the guide was telling our group this story, he says that she was standing in the room right there, and he pointed right at me. So apparently I was standing in the exact spot that this lady was standing in, but that didn't happen to me.
After the Haunted Vault tour, we literally stumbled upon another great adventure. We walked into a pub. In that pub, they had this pub crawl challenge. If you went to all the different pubs and you got the card punched, then you got a t-shirt. Now, we weren't going to do all that, but we did see a pub on there that caught our eye. Now, a lot of April's friends call her Swanee, and one of the pubs was named Swanee, so we just had to go.
Because Swan is my maiden name.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's why friends call me Swanee. Yep.
So we went down the street, we found Swanee's. It's a little pub in a residential area of the city. I guess there's apartments upstairs, there's residents all around, and it just looked like a great place. So we walked right in.
Yeah, so keep in mind, this was a Monday night. We walked in, of course it wasn't crowded, being Monday night. The poor bartender in there, we start talking to him. He tells us that he wasn't even supposed to be working that night because he was a student at the local university and he had a chemistry test the next day. Somebody called in sick. He said, okay, I'll come in and cover. It's a Monday night. Nothing's going to happen. I'll bring my books and I'll just study while I'm behind the bar. Well, unfortunately, we wandered in and all that changed. We started talking to him. I was so excited about explaining to him how my friends call me Swanee and this bar is called Swanee's. He got kind of a kick out of that. And there was another Scottishman in there that Mark tried carrying on a conversation with and I think understood every fourth word or something. So that was kind of fun. And then the manager of Swanee's came in and I started telling him the story about how I'm Swanee. Well, behind the bar, he opens a trap door, disappears downstairs, comes back up with probably the best souvenir I have ever gotten in my life. He gave me the shirt that all of the Swanee's bartenders wear because it has Swanee's embroidered right here and it has the Scottish flag on the sleeve right here. I was so touched and excited about this. And our friend, the student studying for his chemistry test, had this same shirt on now. So the manager gave me this shirt, and I decided that I was so grateful I was going to help out our friend, the bartender. So I told him, you go study, I'll watch the bar. Now, keep in mind, it was only me, Mark, and the drunk Scottishman in there at the time. So I announced to the entire bar, all three of us, that no matter what you order, you're either getting a beer or a cosmopolitan, because that's all I know how to make. So that's kind of what we did the rest of the night. I really hope that this poor kid did well on his chemistry test. I tried to help out where I could by watching the bar. It was kind of fun being behind the bar with my shirt on, but that's just the kind of friendliness and attitude that we got while we were in Scotland, and it was such a great experience. We tell that story all the time, and I mean, I would highly recommend trying to find Swanee's, but if you can't, I'm sure you'll have a similar experience at any of the local pubs in the area.
If you're ever in Edinburgh, you have to take the Haunted Vaults tour and definitely stop in at Swanee's for a scotch. Tell them Swanee sent you and show them this video. They may even remember us. And as always, if you're interested in hearing about other fun stuff to do around the world, subscribe to this channel or visit us online at www.oootraveljournal.com. Safe travels, everyone.